Technically.
I can't speak for everyone here.
But I don't think if we walk down the street, anyone would
Right.
recognize that we're half white or have white blood in us.
Or would maybe traditionally get cast to play someone that owned slaves.
Right, but we are entering the post-racial society, I hope.
Well, it's you know, it's an interesting thing because we've had that conversation as a cast and what does that mean, you know. I don't know if we are really entering a place where people are going to not have this conversation in a talkback, you know, where we can just say, oh yeah, of course they're playing white characters. I can't even imagine that happening. So to me, we're not in a post-racial society yet, but
Yours cracked.
I was pleased asking you too, but the way the play emphasizes differences in language and kind of ironic language, and Harriet is so good at making fun of the language that she is supposedly supposed to speak, and then there was so much talk about her use of big words, and that kind of play about language wasn't in the book, it was assumed, I guess. And I just thought that was wonderful.
When we were talking about Lydia reimagining, kind of I see where she reimagined it from the book though, because it's very subtle and there are very few moments. But Harriet in the book will take on the voice of other characters, and I remember when she did the voice of the poor white characters that ransacked her grandmother's kitchen, and she spelled all the words very differently, and I could totally hear when, and maybe it's because I'm an actor who like hears voices when he reads, and maybe I'm a little crazy, but I could hear the voice. I could hear the voice, and she did it when she spoke to like some of the slaves that helped her to hide. I can't remember the woman's name from the plantation that helped her to hide in the beginning of her hiding. So I think Lydia took those little things and made a whole theme of it throughout the play.
I also think that she's responding to the response to the published narrative. It says that you know this narrative was published without a name on it. It was published anonymously, and the only name on it was that of a white abolitionist, Lydia Maria Child. At the time, everyone knew Harriet had written it. It was common knowledge. She was like signing autographs and stuff. Within like 20 years after her death, she was lost. She was gone. Historians were saying, oh, there's no way a black woman could have written this. It's it's a romantic novel. It's a novel by Lydia Maria Child. And I really feel like part of what Lydia is doing is stepping to those people in a way to say this was the language. This was the language this woman had to describe her experience.
And I think it's really artful that she did that. I feel like that's something that, at least in my experience as a black person, has been the use of language. I think helps to recontextualize this play in a modern context, and there's themes that relate to the modern experience of African Americans, and I think that's really important to help us see the continuity as we talk about going into a post-slavery or post-racist society or whatever. I think that helps us to understand that the continuity of the struggle from the time.
And one thing this makes me think of is in the character breakdown, it says that Harriet is a very adept code switcher, which I think is such a great way of saying it. So she's very aware, and I think that as being African American, being a Black American, knowing how to code switch is essential. And so I just think that was really something that stood out to me.
There's another sort of language in this play, which is the music that you're singing. I'd love to hear a little bit more. I don't even know very much about the process that you went through with the composer, and you'll notice that the songs and some of the rhythm was really the only sound design in the piece. So that had I think it's emotionally evocative, but I'd love to know a little bit more about the meaning behind it and your intention with it.
Yes.
It's funny because poor Delon has been shouldering the burden of like remembering when every song is and how it is and what note it starts on. And believe me, this was for a very long time not an easy task.
I think one of the big things that Clarice, who is the music, the composer and kind of the music director of the piece, specified was that she wanted it to be very organic. So we spent a lot of time in the rehearsal room, especially maybe like a week and a half before opening, really kind of exploring what that was. We listened to clips and we kind of just were, as you notice, there are no words or anything, it's a bunch of sounds and I feel like, I don't know how everyone else feels, but I feel like the further we go with that, the more it becomes like people are oohing and dahing and eeing and ahhing, and it just evolved. And I think that was her intention, to get us to give the music a life of its own. And I think Allison, you said it was, you called it like a dialogue or a kind of text, and everything.
Yeah.
It's a character among itself, I think. And I think it adds to the piece because it was essential. That was something that happened regularly. You know, song was a way to not only escape, but to express what you couldn't express with words, what you weren't allowed to say. So I think historically that it's relevant in that sense, and I really feel like it really glues the play together a little bit more. It's not just something that's there for the transition. You know, I feel like it's an essential part of the piece.
In addition to that, what Clarice reminded us was that, you know, wherever we are in the context of where we are in our place, however we feel, that's where the song comes from. So if we're working in the fields and someone starts to sing, wherever we are, we begin with that and we might join in, you know, and it becomes this organic, yet there's chaotic and yet there's organization to it, because we're all together and we're all in this state together. And so that was really beautiful, because she talks about using body parts. You see Mary coming in, putting the cups down. I don't know if anybody noticed that. It was rhythmically, you know, coming in with the tub, like we're using everything, our rhythm with the walk and everything, and how that unites us. And yet we are very individual at the same time, you know, wherever we are, that's where we come from.
I think further, there's just something unspeakable about slavery. And I just, with the songs and with what Megan was giving us for direction, and then Clarice, again, was like what Ramona says, like there's a purpose behind the songs, then now I understand gospel music and spiritual more, because I just be like, wait, you know, like whatever, you know, but now if I'm singing something, I get it. Like it's like, it's God, it's something, but it's in my body, it's in everybody's body, it's unspeakable what happened to people's skin like that. So I think the music with no words, it was just amazing. It was great to work with.
That was actually a big part of going back to your earlier question about how are we trying to tell the story in a different